and welcome to my organized life, where I'm trying to get my life organized. So today I'm going to be showing you how I make my sinking fund envelopes. They're the ones pictured in the thumbnail. They're a little bit different from my everyday envelopes, so if you want a tutorial on those, I would be more than happy to show you. But we're going to stick to the sinking fund envelopes for now, and there is a few different products that I used to make them. I will have everything linked in the description in my Amazon idea lists. It is also an affiliate link, so any purchase you make will have no extra cost to you, but will support me in the channel. So thank you in advance if you do purchase anything from those links. So first I'm going to go into Pages. You can use any notes application that you have on your computer. And then I'm going to choose a blank template, and I'm just going to go in and write down the titles for my sinking funds. So I need to make a sinking fund envelope for vacation and also back to school. So I'm going to go in and change the font. You can choose any font you want. I like this Zapfino font. It's beautiful and scripty, and I wish my handwriting looked like that. So I'm going to go with this one, and I'm going to enlarge it a little bit. And since I'm only making 2 envelopes, and I wasn't sure what size font I used last time I made my envelopes, I'm just going to make another set of them at a little bit larger font. That way I can have a couple options and I can go with the font that matches my other ones, if that makes sense. If you're making these for your first time, you'll just choose a size that you like and do all of them for that size. So next I'm going to go into print, and then we can see the little print preview on the left side there, and we can kind of judge how big it'll be on the paper and see if that's kind of what we want for our font. I think the bottom one looks good, so I'm going to go ahead and print. So here it is here. So I'm just going to take one of my already made sinking funds and kind of match it up with the font, and I do think the bottom fonts match a little bit better. They're slightly bigger than I used before, but I think they'll work and I don't think I'll notice. So next I'm going to choose a paper to have on the backs of my sinking fund envelopes. So I've got this Pretty in Ink pad from Michaels. I absolutely love it. I do have to admit I was a little bit hesitant on paying that price for paper, but I've gotten so much use out of this already, and there's still so many pieces of paper left. I think it's definitely worth it. So I'm just going to flip through and show you guys some of the patterns in here. This isn't all of them, unfortunately, because like I said, I have used this quite a bit, so I've taken a lot of the sets out, but you do get 2 pieces of each paper, which is awesome. And then I'm going to go through and choose which papers I want for my envelopes. So the sinking funds envelopes that I like have the color on the back, and the money kind of covers it, but I don't know why, I just like it like that, and then the front is clear. So I'm going to choose this paper for my back to school sinking fund, because this is the paper that my kiddo chose for his 2021 savings challenges binder, so I know he already likes it and then it'll match. So I'm going to choose this one for back to school. And then I'm going to go with this pink tie-dye paper for vacation because it's super cute and I have 2 pieces of it, so I don't have to feel bad about using it. So next, and this is totally optional, I'm going to use my light board to make my life a little bit easier. I already have a template drawn up for the size of the envelopes that I like to do. So the envelopes that I do are 9 centimeters by 17 centimeters. You will have to figure out what dimensions you need and then measure your paper accordingly. You can go this route and make your own template, and then if you don't have a light board, you can always tape your paper to a window and use the sun as a natural light board, and that will work just as well. So this light board has 3 different settings. It's got a dim, kind of like a medium, and then a bright. And I think I only paid like $20 for it, so it's pretty awesome. So here I'm just showing you guys that this is the exact size that I use for my sinking funds envelopes. And then I'm measuring it because I didn't realize that I actually had the dimensions written down on the sides. But yes, it is 17 by 9 centimeters exactly, and that gives enough room to have some cash in the envelope without it being too tight. There's lots of room for the cash to move around. That way it doesn't get stuck in there and it will fill up nicely. And then it also gives enough room to be able to add hole punches without taking space for your cash. So next I'm going to take my paper and I'm just going to line it up on my template. We're going to switch to the bright settings so we can actually see the lines through, and then I'm going to go through and mark down where the lines are that I need to cut. I am going to use a paper trimmer to cut this out to make it a little bit easier and make sure my lines are straight. However, if you don't have that, you can use a ruler to make sure your lines are straight. Make a line on the entire piece and then cut it out with scissors. So for my back to school envelope, I'm just trying to decide which part of the pattern I want to show on the envelope. So I'm just going to reposition it around to get a general idea. And I did decide to go with the top left corner where it's kind of half purple and half blue. I really like that. So I'm going to go through and make a couple extra marks here to make sure that I don't get that white border of the paper in there. And then we'll go through and do the exact same thing. We'll just make our marks where we need to trim. Alright, so the next step is trimming the paper. I use a Westcott titanium bonded paper trimmer. I absolutely love this. I think it costs like $20 at Walmart and I have used so much of it. You can get replacement blades for $17 and reuse it, and it's absolutely awesome. Mine's a little bit worn out because I've used it so much, but it's definitely worth it. So I'm going to go through, and I don't really measure anything here. I just go through and line up my marks with the indentation where the blade runs through the trimmer. That way I can make sure that it's cutting exactly where I need it to. So we're just going to go through and cut the paper just along the marks. So I'm just going to bring my blade down to where my next mark is. That way I'm just cutting out the square that I need, and all my excess paper sticks together. And then here I didn't make an indent at the top of the paper where I need it to be able to line up, so I just used the score option on the trimmer to score the paper to make sure that it was going to cut along the line that I needed it to. So then we're going to do the same thing with our other piece of paper. This one will be a little bit easier because we don't have to do any extra cutting. We just have to make 2 cuts and we've got our paper. So now we've got the backs for both of our sinking funds, and you would just repeat these steps for as many sinking funds as you're making. So the next we're going to work on the lamination sheets. So I just used the Amazon Basics laminator and Amazon Basics laminating sheets. I do have 2 made already, but for the purpose of this video we'll go through and cut some other ones. Here is all of the script for my previous sinking funds. So we can see that the top font is a little bit too small and then the bottom font is a little bit too big, but the bottom font does match better, so we're going to use that bottom font. And then we're going to take a lamination pouch and we are going to cut it to the same measurements that we did our sinking fund envelopes. So mine will be 9 centimeters by 17 centimeters. Yours will be whatever dimensions you decided on. So here we're just going to trim that curved edge on the laminating sheet since we want the edges to be straight. So now we've got a straight edge rather than the curved edge that the sheet comes with. And the nice thing about this is when you cut one laminating sheet, you're actually making 2, if that makes sense. So you'll see what I mean. when we get going. So here it's a little bit hard to measure out the laminating sheets, so I did have to use my trimmer to measure it, and it takes me a little bit to figure out how to do that. So here I'm just putting it at the 9 centimeter mark and then making my cut. And then just checking it with my pieces of paper to make sure that it's a decent fit. It's okay if it overlaps the paper a little bit, but we don't want it to be smaller than the paper. Okay, and now the other edge I need at 17 centimeters, so I'm going to go through and lay my lamination papers at 17 centimeters and make a cut there. You want to make sure that they're lined up. Mine moved a little bit on me, so I'm just going to go through and make sure that they are just completely lined up again. So we've actually got 2 pouches here, and we only need 1 pouch per envelope. So this is what I meant by when you cut into a lamination sheet, you're actually getting 2. So it fits over the paper perfectly, and now we have 2 of those. You want to make sure that there's not any lint or anything sticking to the lamination paper, because it will laminate to your envelope and you will not be able to get it off. So you'll see me quite a bit throughout the video just cleaning them off as I go, just to make sure that there's nothing stuck on them. So this is my laminator. It's just the Amazon Basics laminator. Again, everything will be in the description box under my affiliate link to my idea list. I'm just going in and plugging in my laminator, and then I'm going to turn it on and I'm going to set it to the 3mm because that's the size of the lamination sheets that I have. So we're just going to set that to the side and let it heat up. So now I'm going to bring my light board out again. And again, this is totally optional. You can use the sunlight and a window if you need to. So I'm just going to go through and... Okay, so here's where we need our laminator cutouts. So you'll notice that there is a shiny side and a dull side to the laminating sheets. We want the dull side to be up, so that's the side that we're going to write on. And here's where I'm going to use my template for my script, and I'm also going to use just a black alcohol marker by Ohuhu to write on this. You can probably use any kind of black marker that you have. This is just the one that I decided to use. And then you want to try and center up your script with your sinking fund envelope. I personally don't mind if it's a little bit off, so I just kind of eyeball it and go from there. If you want to be a little bit more precise, then I would recommend maybe using graph paper. And then you could figure out where the exact center of your envelope would be. So I'm just going to go through and trace the script with my marker. And there it is. That's another reason why I like this font, is because it's okay if it looks a little bit messy because it's handwritten, but it still looks absolutely beautiful. so there's that finished, and I'm just going to go through and make some of the lines a little bit bolder. I'm going to wipe off my desk and make sure there's no lint or any little bits of just random stuff laying on the surface, because again, we don't want anything to get on the laminating pouch or in between it, aside from what we want there. So I just put my template in behind. This is more important when I was doing sinking fund envelopes that have like the clear lamination hole punch at the bottom, because you want to make sure you leave enough room for that and not have them too close together. So for this style of envelopes, since our hole punch just goes on the paper, it's not really necessary. So I kind of wasn't thinking there. We don't really need the template in behind it. So now we just want to lay our lamination sheet over top of our paper and line them up the best we can. Again, it's okay if they overlap a little bit. And you want to make sure that you have the dull side up, so the side that you wrote on. If you have the dull side down, then it will just laminate it to the piece of paper and it won't be an envelope. So you might have to readjust it a little bit. It took me a few tries the first couple times I made sinking fund envelopes to get them to line up. I would line them up in my hand, and then as soon as I put them in the lamination pouch, they would move around and I'd have to realign them. So you just want to make sure that you're getting them lined up the best that you can. So here I'm just trying to decide which way I want the design to be. And once I've decided, I'm going to go through and stick this in the laminating pouch as well. Again, it always shifts on you, so you gotta just make sure to realign it and make sure it's good. So I like to just run my hand over the lamination pouch to kind of smooth over everything, make sure it's set. That dull side keeps things from sliding around for the most part, as long as you're careful. So I just kind of like to try and seal it in there a little bit. Alright, so our laminator says it's ready to go. And we are going to make sure to slide the laminating pouch into the laminator from the sealed side. So there's one edge that's sealed together. You want to put it through the laminator on that edge, not the part where it opens up. And that just keeps it from jamming. So I'm just lifting mine up at the back because I had stuff behind it and I didn't want it to catch on it, so I'm just lifting it up so that way it comes out smoothly. Alright, so we'll set the laminator off to the side for now. And I'm going to bring out my paper trimmer. I love using this for envelopes because I can line up the seal and have it cut fairly close without cutting over it. It's not a perfect science, sometimes I still cut into it. Again, you can just use scissors for this. You want to cut fairly close to the seal, but not close enough that you break it, because if you break that seal, then your envelope's going to be ruined and it's not going to work very well. So I'm just going to go through and cut close to the seals on each of these. I usually like to get up close and personal to line up the seal with my blade, but with having the camera in the way, it was a little bit awkward, so it took me a little bit longer than usual to kind of position it. And now for the top of the envelope, you want to cut into the seal, so you want to cut pretty much like right next to where the paper ends. And then that will give you your envelope. And then another thing that I recommend doing is taking some scissors and just rounding the corners of the envelopes, because they are a little bit sharp and I have stabbed myself on them. So I definitely recommend doing this. Just make sure you don't cut into the seal when you're doing so. And they don't have to be perfectly round, but just as long as you take that sharp edge off, it should be okay. And then you could round the corners on the top as well. I don't usually see the need to, but you definitely could. So now we're going to go through and do the same thing for our other envelope. And just a word of advice to any cat owners out there: if you have a laminator and you are discarding lamination sheets, make sure you discard them in a closed garbage, because if your cat's like mine, she will eat them and get sick. Thankfully, she was okay once she got it out of her system, but she was not a happy kitty, so I'm much more careful on that now. Alright, so there's both envelopes done. So I like to run them through the laminator twice. After I cut them, I will run them through again just to make sure the seal's good, make sure everything's good. I don't know if it really makes a difference, aside from maybe a little bit of peace of mind, but it's just something I like to do. Just making sure that the seal is still broken on the tops of them. And now the last thing to do is go ahead and hole punch them. Now this is optional. If you don't want envelopes hole punched, you can, for one, make them smaller, because they wouldn't have to be quite so long in width. I make mine a little bit longer because of that hole punch. I have to have enough room to hole punch it and hold the money. But if you are going to hole punch them, you want to just make sure that it's kind of centered. And then for some reason, I can never align my hole puncher to the rings in my sinking funds binder. So I usually have to go in and widen the hole punches a little bit, which is a little bit of a pain. But you'll see here, we're going to try and put that in there, and it's just does not want to work. So I've got to go through and just widen the hole punches a couple times until I get it to fit. I did just recently invest in a single hole punch for that purpose in the future, so hopefully that will save me a little bit of time and frustration. And this back to school envelope I struggled with a lot. For some reason I just couldn't, I think I widened them the wrong way. So I had to punch that one multiple times. Okay, so fast forward to where I actually got it hole punched decently to where it fit better. And then here I'll just show you what they look like with money in them. So the money fits in there comfortably. It's got a lot of room. It doesn't move around a whole lot though, which is nice, and it gives the envelopes quite a bit of expanding room, so you can stuff them pretty full. Looks super cute. I absolutely love these envelopes. It's a little bit weird to have the pattern on the inside, but I don't know, that's just how I like them. So that is it for this video. If you guys liked this video, would you please give it a thumbs up? I would love to hear how your envelopes turned out, if this was something that you tried. And if you'd like to see more content like this, please feel free to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified when I upload. As always, guys, have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Bye!